with the introduction?
Yeah, definitely.
Might as well. Okay, so this is the actual, just imagine you have a slide. Okay, so I'd like to start off by thanking you all for attending our talk. And by, here we are, introducing my co-presenters, doctoral candidate Wenmin Liang, Emerald Schreier, Raina Ritchie, and Dr. Bapujee Biswabandan in spirit, because he's flying back from Africa right now for his postdoc work. And we'll be discussing the materials development phase of a multi-phase, multi-site SSHRC-funded project entitled Language and Literacy Learning Among Youth Refugees in Canadian Classrooms. And it's ongoing at UBC with the PI Maureen Kendrick and the co-PI Margaret Early, and Saskia Van Vegan, the co-PI at York, and I'm the co-PI at Western. So the goal of the project is to develop practices and policies to engage with youth refugee students' digital multimodal literacy practices. I'm not sure who's doing the PowerPoint, but could you advance to the next slide? Sure. No, thank you. Yeah. And in our site, we've completed phase 1, an educator survey and interview, and phases 2 and 3 are ongoing. So phase 1 involves a youth refugee student survey and interview. Phase 2 involves working one-on-one for about 5 hours with youth refugee participants, working with them to develop a creative project to suit their language literacy and digital needs, as many have experienced interrupted schooling. And compared to the other 2 sites where they're dealing with elementary or secondary students, we're working with post-secondary students. Participant recruitment, as you can imagine, through the pandemic has been very challenging. So we're using the additional time to develop materials so that the participants can have a better sense of what they can choose from for their own creative products. And so today we're discussing our development work and the attention we're giving to participants' authorial voice and issues of authorial privilege, hence the title, Showcasing Youth Refugees' Authorial Voice Through Creative Products. And if you could go to the next slide. Okay, and so this is just an overview. Wenmin will speak more to the theory, and you could go on to the next slide now, please.
So traditional communication theories focus only on how language communicates meaning. Since new technologies and media have greatly revolutionized our way of life in the 21st century, the theory of multimodality could provide us with a lens to analyze how meaning is made through multiple modes and media to represent communication in learning environments. Drawing on theoretical foundations of multimodality and the notions of identity text and digital storytelling, the youth refugee participants will have the opportunity to work with researchers to create innovative multimodal products based on a subject relevant to their life and interests. We intended to make space for them to incorporate any accessible multimodal resources to represent their lived experience. A key aspect of multimodality theory stresses that all communication includes simultaneous use of multiple modes, for example, image, gesture, movement, music, digital tools, etc. Therefore, our participants can choose to employ photographs, art, video, animation, music, drama, text, poetry, or a combination of these to create their products. In this development phase, we aim to explore how they assign meaning to their multimodal products and how these diverse and hybrid semiotic resources enable them to represent complex, possibly difficult feelings and personal experience. So I'm going to move to the next slide.
Hi, so I'm Emerald, and I wanted to start with this quote by Atkinson and Delamont. So, language is not a transparent medium. The textual conventions to which we've become accustomed are just that, conventions. Photography, film, and video are not merely passive recording media. Rather, they actively shape our reception of social and cultural phenomena. So that quote leads nicely into discussion of methodology and voice. So authorial voice. When individuals express their views and perspectives in a multimodal manner, they have some intent for other people to understand their perspective or reality. And their representation and expression of voice is what's called their authorial voice. So there's a question of how would we represent or translate a representation for a participant if we just summarize their words? Would we get it right? So Van Manen discusses the power dynamics and politics of reporting research. If the participant does not express something themselves, like in our creative products, then there is a power dynamic in how the research represents it, since researchers, in a sense, get the last word because they're the ones doing the editing and the publishing. So Atkinson and Delamont discuss a concept known as authorial privilege, which is when the researcher is taking away a participant's authorial voice in quest to represent the data in some creative way of the researcher's choosing. And their goal may overshadow the participant's authorial voice. And this is often unconscious rather than conscious. So for our purposes, an important advantage of multimodal representation is it helps ensure the focus remains on the culture and voice of the author and not to decenter them in favor of spotlighting the researchers or ethnographers who are presenting their findings. So in seeking to understand the experience of youth refugees, we must be explicit and mindful in our intentions to convey the true meaning and voice of our participants. Thanks. And ensure not to lose it or make assumptions in the transfer of information to scientific writing. So we realized that through using multimodal platforms and working with participants to create their own projects in their chosen platform, we are hoping to mitigate these effects because the narrative voice is brought to the forefront and participants are telling their story in the way that they chose to tell it and get it across.
Just to make sure, is Raina here?
Doesn't look like she's here yet, no.
Okay, sorry. So I just pulled up the notes and just covered Raina's part on her behalf. Sorry about the inconvenience. So my colleagues and I will now describe various creative products that our participants will might choose to use to share their stories. So if we have time at the end of the presentation, we may show you the video of overview of the sample projects. So the first approach is the dual language books or multilingual books. They are the teaching tools that validate youth refugees' linguistic capability and affirm their cultural identities. When creating multilingual books, students write a short story in 2 or more languages, their home language or language and any other learned languages. They can use digital platform to make their story multimodal. Well, multilingual book project can fit the theme of the classroom instruction. Students can also write a story about their upbringing, which merges the identity text with the multilingual format. So why do dual language books support youth refugees? Writing the story in multiple language allows students to transfer knowledge between languages, drawing on their multi-competencies and demonstrate their content-based thinking and literacy skills in their language. Dual language or multilingual books develops confidence and positive relationships between the youth refugee and their teachers and peers because the sense of mutual respect builds within the share of cultures through reading. While our presentation focuses on youth refugee, multilingual books have the potential to meet the second language learning needs of many student populations. Multilingual books can be adapted to adult refugee learner by treating personal subjects such as like their language learning stories or their relocation to Canada. Furthermore, elementary students in French as a second language programs where core French or French immersion can develop new vocabulary and grammatical skills by writing and editing their dual language or multilingual books. More importantly, this tool can inspire a love for language learning as students walk away from a polished book that can be shared with friends and family. In some, the flexibility of dual language books suggests that we can be easily adopted to various learning environments. So, and then I return to the presenter mode. So for the approach 2, I also developed 2 sample products for our participants, Glogster and the digital resume. Glogster is an online platform that allows us to combine text, images, video, and audio to create an interactive digital multimedia poster on a virtual canvas. My Glogster is about who I am and my language learning and educational experience. Another project I made is a digital resume. Unlike a resume in print, I recorded myself talking about my education and work experience, skills and techniques I have acquired, and hobbies and personal interests, and could make it available online. For instance, on my personal website or YouTube. These 2 products can serve as examples of applying the notions of multimodality, identity tags, and digital storytelling to practice. Demonstrate how participants can express their author voice when tools are changed.
So creating a material memory is the 3rd type of creative product that participants could make and use to share their story. So it is described here, as you'll see, as building a narrative or storytelling about a meaningful object to learn more about one's history and personal experiences. So material memories can reveal both the history of objects and the people they belong to, but also tell the story of someone's personal narrative regarding their culture, customs, language, society, generational narrative, and lived experiences. So I worked with Wenmin to produce a material memory project about a story involving loss and hope. So first I wrote the script and then I watched the previously recorded, instructional videos to create my multimodal story on iMovie. So afterwards I filmed my clips and edited them. So the why. The project I created demonstrated a story about resilience and loss that could be used as a sample product for participants. So the multimodality of iMovie allowed me to use images and video clips as well, which better helped me to express myself. And the idea here is that producing material memory provides a platform where individuals can share their story with their authorial voice respected, and the participant is empowered to do so in how to demonstrate their knowledge. The participant is empowered to do so because they have choice in the medium they use and choice in how to demonstrate their knowledge. And we can be confident the message they are sending is coming through because it is not just being summarized. So preserving authorial voice was kind of the purpose behind these projects we made. So encouraging refugees to share their stories in a safe space, even if it was in a digital CV, Glogster, or material memory. And we also encouraged others to engage in storytelling in a safe space.
So last discussion and conclusion. So far, our project is in the pre-implementation phase. Our goal is to scaffold participants to develop products that foster their language literacy and digital literacy development, meet their professional needs, and respect their author voice. We believe that the development phase information and the dialogue between the theory and practice we presented in our research have broader applicability. Not only can they help us better understand how to support youth refugees' academic development and socio-emotional well-being, but they can be extensively applied to the classrooms where multilingual and multimodal education is taking place, legitimizing the merits of using students' multilingual and other semiotic resources to improve both their language learning and academic achievement. For example, Raina has extended the dual language book project to her French immersion classroom. Besides, the notion of multimodality, identity text, digital storytelling, and author voice also reflect the significant paradigm shift marked as multilingualism and multiliteracies in education research. When applied to the research study, we should pay attention to the unequal power dynamics between the researcher and the researched. In the participants' chosen multimodal representations, it is essential to ensure that the focus remains on the culture and voice of the authors and the message they intended to deliver, rather than losing sight of them to meet researchers' needs or make assumptions in transferring information to academic writing. So that's all for our presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, thank